My name is George Sava, and I'm a professional presentation skills coach, pitching skills coach. And what I do is I help people with communication. I think one of the things that people don't get when it comes to presenting and pitching is the communication end. There seems to be a little disconnect. It's not a matter of just standing up and speaking. It's a matter of standing up, saying what it is that you want to say, and getting the message across. I think the real essence or the crux of the whole thing is, what did I say? What did my listener hear? What did they understand? Because if what I say and what they understand is not the same, you have a break in the communication. And I often say one of the best examples, we used to have a fantastic program here in the UK. It was called The Two Ronnies. And the sketch that I love the most is the sketch where the guy walks into the hardware store and he asks for the 4 candles. And he ends up with 4 candles, wax candles. But in actual fact, what the customer was asking for was handles for a fork. And that is communication. So sometimes it's what you say, if you're not completely clear on what it is that you're going to say, what the person is picking up from what you're saying, these things don't line up. And as soon as you don't have these two things lining up, you have a miscommunication. Now there's a lot of things that go into making a communication work, and the first of those is begin with the end in mind. Have an understanding, what is it that you want to get across? What is the core message? Because if you know what that is, everything that you do from that point onwards helps you, leads you in that direction, going towards a specific direction. So you always need to begin with, what is it that I want to talk about? What is the essence of my message? And then you go towards that. Now, how do we get there? There's a number of things that we need to remember. The first is that you're dealing with human beings. And so human beings, just because you've got them in a room now and they're sitting there because they're going to listen to you, doesn't mean that they're disconnected from the real world, see? So what happens is they've still got minds. And so what you've got to contend with as a presenter, as a pitcher, as a teacher, as a lecturer, whatever you want to call yourself, what you have to contend with is what's going on in their world. So if they're thinking about their mobile phone, or if they're thinking about their iPad, or if they're thinking about their girlfriend or their boyfriend, or something that's gone wrong with the dog, they forgot to put the heater off, whatever it is, they're not in the room. So the first, I think, technique that we need to know as communicators is what I call the hook. The hook is a little bit like the headlines of a newspaper. You know, when you see the newspaper headlines, they scream at you, and if that headline catches your attention, you go and buy that paper. Well, your opening statement when you're going to deliver a presentation or a pitch or a talk or an education, a class, whatever it is that you're delivering, needs to have something similar. You need to stop people from going into their own worlds and coming into the classroom. And there's a lot of ways that you can do it. I use a little trick where I put a little black spot on a wall, turn around and tell them I'm going to count to 5. And when I turn around, the first person who's looking at me will come and do an impromptu talk. And that usually works very well, because all of a sudden, anything that was urgent in their heads suddenly becomes completely irrelevant in the face of delivering an impromptu presentation. And that usually is enough to get them back in the room, especially when I say, I was only joking, I was only kidding, nobody's going to speak. But by that time, the engagement process, that hook, it's been done. It's served its purpose. So let's recap what we've talked about. Number 1, begin with the end in mind. Number 2, have a hook. Once you've got people in the room and you've got them hooked and they're paying attention, now you launch your presentation and you cover the 5, what I call the 5 honest serving men or women or whatever you want to call it. But that's the who, what, when, where, and why. You cover those 5 things in your presentation because that will keep you on track. So if you keep asking the question, what am I talking about? Who am I talking to? Why am I saying this? When you get through that, what happens is you will then stay on track because you've still got the end in mind and you're now moving towards a destination. It's like going to London in a car. It doesn't matter what deviations. If you know that London is the destination, it doesn't matter what route you take, you'll get to London. And it's the same with the presentation. If you keep the end in mind, who, what, when, where, why will keep you on track. So that's what you do in terms of that, of your presentation. But there's a very important point that a lot of people make the mistake on, particularly when they really are conversant, when they really understand their subject and they really know their subject. They start to speak in a language called technicalese. And what technicalese is, it's not English. It sounds like English, it feels like English, and some of the words look like they're English, but the problem that you've got is that the moment there's a disconnect in your subject and that you're using these technical terms, the people you're speaking to, the moment they don't understand what you're talking about, they're not going to put up their hand and say, I'm stupid, I don't understand that. And so they'll let you carry on, but now from that point onwards they have no idea. So I'll give you an example. I always give this example, and it's a particularly good example. I talk about crepuscules, and I say to people, the children were lively until the crepuscule arrived, whereafter they were much quieter. And when it had departed, they were lively again. And it's English, and everybody can hear it's English, but for that word crepuscule. And because of that word crepuscule, people start guessing what the sentence means until they find out that crepuscule means nighttime, darkness, or twilight. Now they can figure it out. The children are not so lively anymore because they've gone to bed. And that's what happens in a communication. So when we are communicating, please keep your language simple. The more colorful, the more expressive, the more emotive, the more visual, the better. So when you start to speak to people and you make it really expressive, you want to talk about large volcanoes and you've got this hot lava, that type of thing, it keeps people in the room because you're now starting to put some energy into your presentation. So remember, energy and presentations, pictures go together. They really do, because they add that spice. So let's go back now and just go through it again. We talked about begin with the end in mind. Number 2, use the hook. Number 3, who, what, when, where, why, and how. Number 4, we talked about colorful language. And number 5, probably the most important of all of these, once all that's been done, is ask for what you want. You're not there for no reason. There's a reason that you're there. If during your presentation you don't ask for something specific, whether it's for them to do homework, or whether it's for them to join a cause, or whether it's for them to support some function, or whether it's for them to volunteer some time, whatever it is, if you do not ask for something specific at the end of your presentation, at the end of your pitch, you have all but wasted that opportunity. You've all but wasted that pitch. That's what you're there for. It doesn't matter how small or how insignificant that asking is, make sure you ask. So let's just go back and recap. Number 1, begin with the end in mind. Number 2, use a good strong hook, a good strong headline. Number 3, cover off who, what, when, where, why. Number 4, remember to make your language colorful, potent, present tense, that type of thing. And number 5, ask for something specific.